of 3D photography processing the source images. The first one is about equipment, and the second demonstrates the source image capture. In this one, now we will create the composite images to produce a good 3D image that can be viewed by the right viewer type for the type of image we're creating. I will start with the freehand images that I took with the Kodak point and shoot because it will require the most preparation. After preparation, we'll move to creating the anaglyphic style of 3D. Anaglyph overlays the left and right images that have been stripped of all red, leaving the cyan view, and the other stripped of all green and blue, leaving the red image. They are viewed with the appropriate red, cyan lensed glasses and renders a good 3D image. After that, we'll move to my favorite, which is the stereogram displays, with the left and right images side by side and viewed with a stereo viewer. Well, let's get on with it. I'm going to open both of my source images from the handheld camera that I did the lean to the left and lean to the right shots. As you see, I'm using Photoshop, but most any other editor will do. After the images are loaded and any exposure, contrast, and presence corrections are made, we can proceed. Notice though that I did not do any cropping at this point. Now we can use our source images to create a new composite image. First, select all of the left image and copy. I'm on an Apple, so that's Command A to select all, Command C to copy. Then create a new document based on the copied image with Command N and take the defaults. Paste the copied image into the new document with the Command V. Select the new layer and rename it Left. Select the right image and select all, Command A, and then Command C to copy. Move to the new document and paste with Command V. Rename this layer Right. I use the viewer switch, which is the little eye icon on the right layer, which should be the topmost layer, to easily switch between the left and right images until I decide which image I'll use for the reference and which one will move and rotate to match. With only the reference image visible, I then draw a vertical guide and a horizontal guidelines to crosshair the registration point. This is a temporary point that will be used to get the two images to register. It will also be the rotation center point. This should ideally be near one of the corners, and then draw another horizontal line using a recognizable point in the reference image. Now you can select and make visible the layer you're going to move and rotate. You may need to move the layer to the top or turn off the view of the reference image. Move the second image to line up the registration point. That's the easy part. Rotation is a bit trickier. Normally when you select to rotate an image, it will rotate about its center. You can click on the image center and move it to the registration point and then go into rotate to bring the rotation point to the horizontal line. make both images visible. Maybe reducing the opacity on the topmost layer to clearly see the offsets to each other. And depending on the amount of offset in the two images, you may want to crop and straighten at this time. Cropping is a common action to all layers. Okay, the images are registered and we are now ready to work on the 3D magic. I'm going to use the images to show how to process both anaglyphic method and stereogram methods. I will first combine both layers into a group and name it anaglyph. Duplicate the group and name it SG. For now, turn off the visibility on the SG group and expand the anaglyph group. Readjust your guidelines to where you want convergence. Now, convergence is where the image will be at the screen plane. A good practice is to set the convergence to the closest point to the camera. Adjust both layers so the point is the same. It's like re-registering. The first time was to get the images lined up and rotated. This now sets the optical illusion to the screen plane. Select the top layer image. I historically put the right on top. Consistency in your operation steps helps prevent mistakes. With the right layer selected, click on Image, and then Adjustments, then Levels. The right image needs to be the cyan layer. Remove all red from the mix by selecting the red channel and then reducing the output to 0. Now select the left layer and follow the same steps except remove all the green and blue channels, leaving only the red. Select your topmost layer and set the blending to screen. Put on your red and cyan glasses and see what you've created. Secondary editing to add a frame, your watermarks, title can now be done. Make sure you Save the image both as PSD, which is the Photoshop document, or whatever the native format is for your editor to preserve the layer information. And then as a shareable format like JPEG, PNG, or TIFF. You may not need to make both stereogram and analytic versions of your image. I'm doing it here for the convenience of showing both methods on the same source. In this segment, we will hide the anaglyph group and open the SG group. Since we've already done the registration, we are ready to process these images side by side. Start by going to image canvas size and double the width, and then add about another 2 inches so we have some room to move about. And then add 2 inches to the height as well. Create vertical and horizontal guides at the center of the canvas for reference. You may need to adjust the scale so you can see the whole width of the canvas. Select the right image and move it to the right, leaving about a ½ inch margin. Do the same to the left image and to the left. Move it to the left, I should say, and leave a bit of a margin. As long as the images remain centered vertically, we'll have a good start. Here now is where you'll need one of the scopes discussed in the first tutorial, either the poke scope or the stereoscope, to see where convergence is going to be. A simple rule of thumb is right to the right recedes. That means moving the right image further right will move the closest point on the composite fused image to move back from the viewer towards the screen plane so that the image isn't so much in your face. I don't always drive the closest point all the way back, but I don't like having it touch my nose either. If you want to bring the forward edge closer to you, then move the left image to the right. Once you are happy with the convergence point, you are ready to finish the composite. Select both images at the same time and move them so the subject is centered on the canvas, and then I dress the mess by adding a frame with cutouts to control the perception of the viewing audience. And here's how I do it. First, I add some more guidelines to set the cutout dimensions. These guides should be slightly inside the images. You should now have 2 boxes around 2 images. I select the color with the eyedropper tool from the main image to be the foreground color, and then make a color-filled rectangle about a little bit larger than the canvas. And it is now the top layer. Now you can't see your images, but we'll fix that next. Select the rectangle marquee tool. Make sure it's in the Add to Selection mode, and then draw the selection to match the guidelines created. Invert the selection and then go to the Mask tool and click. Ta-da! Save your work. You can now add watermarks, titles, or whatever else you wish to the image. With careful placement of the same elements in the image, they will appear as an item somewhere in the depth of the composited image. Pretty cool, huh? Save in both the native format to preserve the layers and the composite work. That's PSD for Photoshop, and in a shareable format such as JPEG, PNG, or TIFF of your choice. I'll close this set and move on now to preparing the images from the Loriot split lenses. Here I have only one source image file with both the left and the right images together. Notice the kind of dark blur area near the center of the image. This is the natural septum. That is the separation of the two images, just like your eyes are separated by your nose. That's also called your septum. Use your viewer to look at the unedited image, and you should be able to get a good fusion. That's really all you need to do. However, I want to separate the images so that I have the option of making either an anaglyphic, composite, or to control the convergence liking in my stereogram. Pretty simple stuff to split to the left and right images. Just use the rectangle marquee selection tool to first select the left part of the image and make the new document with it, just as we've done in the other imaging pairs. Go back and select the right side of the image, and you may choose to select such that the natural septum in the original is not selected. That's up to you. Add the selections to the new composite. From here, prepping the image in the new composite is pretty much straightforward and just like described in the freehand example at the beginning of this tutorial. Make your guidelines for registration and rotation. Move and rotate the images to coincide. For this exercise, I'll produce an anaglyphic composite. Now the images are registered, so now you can move your crosshairs to the convergence point, as we've discussed before, and move the images to meet there. I repeat myself for sure. Consistency in process prevents errors. I have the right image layer on top. Now I'll select the right layer and adjust image levels, and I have done this before, so I have level presets for right cyan and left red. Apply your adjustment and set the layer blending mode to screen. Select the left layer and do the adjustment with the levels to the left red. Put on my red and cyan glasses to see what I created. crop if needed, and save the work. This is the last example in the tutorial. I'll make a stereogram from the left and right images taken with the slide. I'll close the previous files. Open the left and right images. A note here, I used a 60 millimeter separation, or septum, as we've learned to call it, on the slide. I'm going to use a slightly different preparation this time just to show the alternative. Registration of the images is usually pretty good unless you have the slide at something other than parallel to the horizon. Small corrections can be done with simple guides and with the extra 2 inches of headroom in the canvas. I'll add a horizontal line selecting a reference point in the left image and adjust the right image vertical position to match. Any offset will be masked by framing. Set the convergence by looking at the composite through stereogram viewer, as we've done earlier in examples. Then select both images to move in unison to final centering. Create the frame cutout guides and make the frame as we've already done earlier, and then save your work. At this time, I'm going to demonstrate how to add a watermark to the two images and set them someplace in the depth of the 3D image. It's not difficult, it's just using the same rules as aligning vertically and placing horizontal differences. Here, I'll add my SMA text somewhere in the left image and set the transparency. Now, I'm not going to explain how to do all that. It's your job to know this stuff in your editor. Place the watermark where you want it on the left image. I usually draw a guide and then duplicate the watermark layer and move it to the right image. And this is where a good understanding of 3D creation is handy. Technically, to be the same distance from the edge, right or left, to be at the screen plane. A little closer moves the image element closer to the person viewing. A little further apart moves the fused image back from the person. Right to the right recedes. Remember that? I often will use some point on the two slides as a reference point, such as a petal, a joint in the tree limb, something like that. and then use the stereogram viewer to finalize the position. Save your work. Help your family and friends by getting them some viewers and publish your great works. Enjoy! Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my YouTube channel at St. Michael's Armory Audio Video Studio. Please use caution. There is another St. Michael's Armory out there that I have no affiliation to.